Secretary of State.
So, Mr Speaker, my initial glance at the Scottish budget that was announced yesterday suggests that there will still be significant uplifts in 2026 in terms of business rates across Scotland. That is a direct challenge to the claims that we've heard from the Scottish Government in terms of economic growth. And so I hope that, as well as continuing to advocate and make the case to the UK Government, she and her colleagues will take the opportunity to say Scotland's high streets are being let down by the Scottish Government, as surely as Scotland's public services are also being let down.
Harriet Cross.
Money in people's pockets is vital for economic growth, but today the government has signed the country up to the highest energy bills for offshore energy for the next 10 years, and bills that we'll be paying for 20 years to come. Can the Secretary of State explain how this is going to get more money back in people's pockets to spend on high streets rather than just to spend on higher bills?
Well, Mr Speaker, let's actually start with the facts. Our auction today delivers new renewable power that is cheaper to build than operate than building new gas. Let me give you the figures. Here are the key facts. The cost of building and operating new gas, £147 per megawatt hour. The strike price we agreed today, average of £91. That means the price of wind we've secured is 40% lower than the cost of building and operating new gas power plants. It's simply not true.
Jamie Stone.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Tonight, millions of people will tune in to The Traitors, which was filmed at Ardross Castle in my constituency. Really, I should have put on my Claudia Winkleman eyeliner for this one. It's brought millions of pounds and jobs to the Highlands. So can I ask the Secretary of State what plans he has to encourage the screen industry to look at locations like Ardross Castle in Scotland?
So firstly, Mr Speaker, I defer to my Cabinet colleague, the Secretary of State for Health, in terms of his expertise and knowledge when it comes to The Traitors. He made a powerful case on television that he had watched the series and I then had to catch up subsequently. I would simply say Ardross Castle is a fantastic advert for Scotland, not simply within the castle but the scenes around it. I was talking only yesterday to my colleague, the Member of Parliament for Stirling, about the huge potential for the film industry in Scotland, and we stand ready with our colleagues in DCMS to do whatever we can to support Screen in Scotland.
Brendan O'Hara.
Secretary of State talked about supporting economic growth in Scotland. Well, perhaps he should check in with the local authorities across the Highlands and Islands, who combined have received absolutely nothing from the UK Government's Local Growth Fund. Life is tough enough for our rural communities, so this decision to exclude them from the Local Growth Fund will only make things more difficult. So will he listen to the advice of the leader of Argyll and Bute Council, Councillor Jim Lynch, who desperately seeks that he rethink this allocation?
Secretary of State.
Mr Speaker, I understand that the SNP's grievance machine doesn't run on facts, but let me introduce a few facts into the conversation. The Highlands and Islands are benefiting from more than £300 million in investments, including £80 million to support neighbourhoods through Pride and Place, and of course the £25 million for the Inverness and Cromarty Green Freeport. I can attest to that because I visited Inverness and announced it.
Shadow Secretary of State, Mr.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Labour government are doing absolutely nothing to grow the Scottish economy, from the national insurance increase, family farm tax, the unemployment rights bill, to gutting the oil and gas industry. Growth halved, unemployment up, inflation up. But not total incompetence. But not only are they incompetent, Mr. Speaker, they are weak. So weak that Scottish Labour announced they wouldn't oppose the SNP's budget before they even knew what was in it. Now, we know they aren't very good at government, but you would have thought, after all these years, they might have worked out how to do opposition, wouldn't you?
Mr Speaker, let's see whether the opposition frontbench agree with the opposition frontbench leader, because of course you don't need to take my word for it in terms of the complete chaos that was left by the last government. The present leader of the Conservative Party is the one who admitted they had, and I quote, no plan for growth. So we're not going to take any lectures from a party that delivered not just the Liz Truss budget, but an economy that was high in inequality and low in growth.
Andrew Bowie.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we saw yesterday from the SNP was nothing more than the same old, tired, stale government with tired, stale gimmicks, handouts, and an addiction to punishing hard-working Scots with the highest taxes for poorer services. Nothing for growth, nothing for entrepreneurs, and nothing for businesses. But what would you expect from the separatist pressure group cosplaying as a government that is the SNP? So does the Secretary of State agree that after 19 years we need change in Scotland, and that the only party with a plan to cut tax, cut the benefit bill, and support business and grow the economy is the Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party?
Secretary of State.
Unsurprisingly, no. I half agree with them, which is that Scotland frankly deserves better than a government that after 19 years is claiming to be the change that Scotland needs. The reality is, when I'm on the doorsteps in East Lothian, I ask people inclined to vote SNP a single question. Name a single area of Scottish public life that has got better over the last 19 years. We've had 2 decades of talking about independence. What do we have to show for it? This isn't the change that Scotland needs this budget. The change we need is an Ass Sarwar and Scottish Labour.
Susan Merritt, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, Speaker, I'd like to congratulate the Government on the successful 7th round of the allocation of green energy and CFD contracts, nearly 20% of which are going to Scotland. It's good to see that even amid their U-turns, a Liberal Democrat system from over a decade ago is still delivering. What discussions has the Minister had with his Cabinet colleagues to ensure the benefits are passed on to the Scottish people through skilled jobs, working to upgrade the grid, and crucially through protecting and defending our offshore infrastructure?
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, I was last in touch with the Designated Secretary about an hour ago before Scottish Questions. I talked to him after the Cabinet and discussed these issues with him in the Cabinet. The choice, and it's a very serious question, it deserves a serious answer, the choice is not whether to build, but what to build. And our answer is clean homegrown power that we in the United Kingdom control. Our answer is that we should build new renewables because they are cheaper to build and to operate than gas.
Stephen Guthins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can I wish the Secretary of State the best for 2026? I'm glad that he caught the traitors, because I have to say I'm so sorry to have heard the language that was being used about Scottish Labour MPs by Labour MPs in the press recently. So I wish him the best. But can he tell me the best way to improve our lives and our economy? Why is Scotland the only part of the UK where child poverty is going down?
Well, in part, child poverty is going to be falling because of the 95,000 kids that we helped by abolishing the two-child cap. It is not a coincidence that on a single afternoon, our Chancellor of the Exchequer took the mantle from Gordon Brown as being the politician who lifted the most kids out of poverty across the UK in a single parliament. Gordon Brown had taken that mantle previously from Dennis Healey. It is not a coincidence that Labour Chancellors lift kids out of poverty. That's what we do, and we're proud of it.
Take the Secretary of State a little bit more seriously if so many Labour MPs hadn't lost the whip for backing our vote on tackling the two-child cap. Now, the Scottish Child Payment has been described as game-changing. That's been extended to babies to get additional funding, meaning that those from deprived communities in Scotland get the best start in life anywhere in the UK in Scotland. So why on earth are the Labour Party abstaining on the budget? And just as the Prime Minister turns up, maybe the Labour Party can explain why they abstain and why they don't stand for anything.
Because, Mr. Speaker, we're not spending our time indulging in the games of the opposition. We're getting on with the serious job of government, whether that is delivering a record package of employment rights to help raise pay. Because the critical point that he failed to mention was 3/4 of the kids in poverty in our country today are in working households. That's why the employment rights bill matters. That's why 220,000 people being lifted out of poverty as a consequence of increases in the minimum wage matter. We have a comprehensive approach, which is why we've got a comprehensive strategy.
Scott Arthur.
Question number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, can I firstly pay tribute to my honourable friend's very passionate advocacy for higher education in Scotland. He'll be well aware that the Scottish Government have received an additional £11 billion since the general election, money that could have been spent on Scotland's world-class universities and colleges. But as a recent Audit Scotland report shows, these institutions will be put under immense stress, with Scottish colleges suffering a 20% cut in real terms funding since 2021. It's utterly shameful.
Scott Arthur.
Mr. Speaker, Scotland's universities have been facing a funding crisis which has been many years in the making. Funding for students in Scottish universities is currently over £2,000 less than it is in England. Universities Scotland yesterday, in response to the SNP budget, made it clear that it will have little impact on this problem as it does not adequately address the situation. No government in Europe, Mr. Speaker, cares less about the education of its young people. Will the Secretary of State or the Minister make time to visit Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh South West, to meet with the Vice-Chancellor, Richard Williams, the staff and the students to hear about the impact of this situation?
Mr. Speaker, I agree with my honourable friend that Scotland's young people have been appallingly let down, which is why it's time for a new direction. I would, of course, be delighted to meet with him and Heriot-Watt representatives to discuss Scotland's desperate need for a new direction.
Right, we now come to Prime Minister's questions. Lincoln Job.
Question number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, can I start by condemning, in the strongest possible terms, the sickening repression and murder of protesters in Iran? The contrast between the courage of the Iranian people and the brutality of their desperate regime has never been clearer. Mr. Speaker, we've called out this brutality face to face. We're working with allies on further sanctions and doing all we can to protect UK nationals. Mr. Speaker, time and again, under the party opposite, towns and cities across the north were failed. Today, this Labour government delivers change, a major new rail network across the north and a new northern growth strategy. That is the renewal that this country voted for. This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks, particularly about Iran? Visiting schools in my Spelthorne constituency is one of the great joys of this job. So I was frankly appalled to hear that the Labour Member of Parliament for Bristol North East was prevented from visiting a school in his constituency because he is Jewish. This is anti-Semitism, and it is happening in plain sight. With all due respect to the Prime Minister, I don't want to know how he feels about this. I want to know what he's going to do about it.
Prime Minister.
Can I start by thanking him for raising this case, because it is very serious, very concerning, and all members of Parliament should be able to visit anywhere in their constituency, schools or other places, without any fear of anti-Semitism. We do take this seriously. We're providing more funding for security and support we're putting in across the country, and we will be holding those to account who prevented this visit to this school.
Annalise Midgley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for his commitment to delivering the Hillsborough Law. But it has been proven that following the Manchester Arena bombings, MI5 spent 6 years misleading the public and concealing information. There was no risk to national security because it was a closed hearing. So will the Prime Minister deliver justice for those families and confirm that this government will bring forward an amendment that will make robust the duties and responsibilities of Canada for all parts of the state, including individuals in the security services, so we can finally say never again?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend? The Hillsborough Law will right wrongs of the past, changing the balance of power to ensure the state can never hide from the people it should serve. And I would like to acknowledge, Mr. Speaker, I think some of the families are in the gallery with us here today, and I will be meeting them later on this afternoon. I've always been clear the duty of candour applies to the intelligence services. I made a commitment we wouldn't water down the bill, and the amendments we put forward strengthen it. It is right that there are essential safeguards in place to protect national security, and we've got that balance right. I will meet the families and we'll outline the next steps on Monday in relation to that crucial balance.
Here comes the Leader of the Opposition, Kevin Bednall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I agree with the Prime Minister's comments on Iran? Today, Irfan Soltani faces execution for protesting in Iran, and I'm sure the whole House will be united in condemning this. Our thoughts are with him and his family and the brave protesters fighting for their freedom against an evil regime. Mr. Speaker, I know the Home Secretary will be making a statement today on the West Midlands Police. The first thing that she should be announcing is the sacking of the Chief Constable. And I thank the member for West Suffolk for relentlessly pushing this issue. Mr. Speaker, can I welcome the Prime Minister's latest U-turn? I feel like I say that every week. Mandatory digital ID was a rubbish policy, and we on this side of the House are glad to see the back of it. But yesterday, the Health Secretary said the Prime Minister's New Year's resolution should be, and I quote, to try to get it right first. To try to get it right first time. To try to get it right first time. Yes, you did say that. You did say that. My question is, does he agree?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm determined to make it harder for people to work illegally in this country. And that's why there will be checks, they will be digital, and they will be mandatory. And I'll tell her what this government is doing, whether on planning, child poverty, employment rights, investing in our NHS, we're taking the right choices for Britain, and they oppose every single one of them. And she talks about U-turns and consistency. From the party that used to recognise the challenge of climate change, and now they run from it. Who promised to cut immigration, but then lost control of it. Who once took great pride in our diversity. Now they talk of deporting our neighbours to achieve cultural coherence. And Mr. Speaker, on consistency, don't get me started on 5 Prime Ministers, 6 Chancellors, 8 Home Secretaries, 16 Housing Ministers. They had more positions in 14 years than the Kama Sutra. No wonder they're knackered and they left the country screwed. Who once took great pride in our diversity. Now they talk of deporting our neighbours to achieve cultural coherence. And Mr. Speaker, on consistency, don't get me started on 5 Prime Ministers, 6 Chancellors, 8 Home Secretaries, 16 Housing Ministers. They had more positions in 14 years than the Kama Sutra. No wonder they're knackered and they left the country screwed.
A lot of waffle, Mr. Speaker, but it's still a U-turn. The member for Hull East has said, it's so interesting, Mr. Speaker, Labour MPs must think very carefully before defending policy decisions publicly. He said, and I quote, this stuff leaves us looking really stupid. I'm sorry to tell him, but Labour MPs have been looking stupid for a long time. But let's look, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's look at some other things the Prime Minister didn't get right first time, starting with the family farms tax. Some farmers were so terrified they sold their farms last year only for the Prime Minister to U-turn 2 days before Christmas. Will he apologise for the misery he's caused countless farmers?
Mr. Speaker, the principle we put in place on inheritance tax is the right one. We listened, we made an aspirin. But what we're doing is turning the country around. Yes, we've changed the country. We've changed the failed approach of the last Tory government. They crashed the economy and sent mortgage rates through the roof. They left millions stuck on NHS waiting lists. They presided over the worst Parliament for living standards on record. Now we're turning that around. We're changing that. Inflation and interest rates are coming down. Waiting lists are coming down. Wages are up more in the first year of a Labour government than 10 years of the Tory government. But I understand, Mr. Speaker, that she's taking advice on change. She had Nadeem Zahawi in to ask his advice. How to change and how to save her party. Please don't tell me she listened to his accountant. Next day after the advice, he jumped ship. How to change and how to save her party. Please don't tell me she listened to his accountant. Next day after the advice, he jumped ship to reform, the 23rd former Tory MP to do so. I don't know which is more pitiful, the flood of former Tory MPs deserting her sinking ship, or the Reform Party so desperate to launder any old failed Tory politician.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister doesn't need to worry about me. I'm all right. And I didn't hear an apology. I didn't hear an apology to the farmers. Has he even apologised to the member for Penrith, who stood up for farmers only to have the whip removed? This Prime Minister treats his MPs so badly, they follow his lead, and he hangs them out to dry every time. Let's turn to another area the Prime Minister has got wrong. His budget doubled business rates for thousands of pubs. So can the Prime Minister tell us, is there going to be any change to his business rates policy?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're working with the sector to ensure that they get the support that they need. I have to say, the Leader of the Opposition's newfound concern for pubs will come as a surprise to anyone who remembers the 7,000 pubs that were closed under the Tories. And as Business Secretary, she didn't say a word about it. So we support business, we also support workers, Mr. Speaker. And that's why we passed our Employment Rights Act. And on Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the Business Secretary and I went to Croydon to discuss our Employment Rights Act with workers there. They were very keen on the paternity rights and the maternity rights, which I know the Leader of the Opposition opposes. And whilst we were there at IKEA, they showed me their new prototype, the IKEA Shadow Cabinet. The trouble is, nobody wants to buy it. It's mainly constructed of old dead wood. And every time you lose a nut, it defects to reform. Opposes. And whilst we were there at IKEA, they showed me their new prototype, the IKEA Shadow Cabinet. The trouble is, nobody wants to buy it. It's mainly constructed of old dead wood. And every time you lose a nut, it defects to reform.
Mr. Speaker.
When you lose a nut, it defects to reform.
Mr. Speaker, he didn't answer the question about business rates. It sounds like he doesn't know what his policy is. And this has been a farce from start to finish. On Monday, the Business Secretary said the Chancellor did not even realise the impact of her business rates policy. No surprise there. But yesterday, the Tax Office said that they did tell the government what the impact would be. So can the Prime Minister be clear? Did he understand the impact of his own policy on pubs?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're working with the sector. She hasn't explained why she said nothing about the 7,000 pubs that closed on her watch. We're doing other things on the cost of living to help people, to make sure they can get out, to spend money in pubs and hospitality, boosting the minimum wage. What did they do? They opposed it. Freezing rail fares and prescription charges. What did they do? They opposed it. £150 off energy bills. What did they do? They opposed it. Freezing rail fares and prescription charges. What did they do? They opposed it. £150 off energy bills. What did they do? They opposed it. She said nothing when pubs were closing, and she opposes everything they do. They opposed it. £150 off energy bills. What did they do? They opposed it. She said nothing when pubs were closing, and she opposes every measure now. And she said a moment ago, I'm all right. She clearly didn't listen to the advice of Nadeem Zahawi, because what he told her, he's now made fun of it. He told her that they failed on mass migration, they failed on our armed forces, and he told her that she's leading, his words, a defunct brand the nation can no longer trust. No wonder he's joined the Tory migration to reform. Mr. Speaker, it's the second Boris wave.
Mr. Speaker, I asked him if he understood the impact of his own policy. He didn't say yes. The reason he U-turns all the time is because he is clueless. He is blowing around like a plastic bag in the wind, no sense of direction whatsoever. And let's be clear, Mr. Speaker, this mess goes beyond pubs. The whole of the hospitality industry, cafes, hotels, restaurants, they're all being clobbered by Labour's tax hikes. There is an answer to this. Conservatives would abolish business rates for small businesses on the high street. Mr. Speaker, yes, they're all chuntering. He's already agreeing with us on family farms tax. He's already agreeing with us on digital ID. Why doesn't he make it a hat trick and abolish business rates for the high street?
Mr. Speaker, they crashed the economy, and now they want to give lectures. She's wondering why nobody's listening to them. Nobody is ever going to listen to them on the economy ever again. Mr. Speaker, in 18 months, because of the decisions we've made, inflation is falling, and the Bank of England say it's coming back down to target. We've had 6 interest rate cuts in a row. Wages are up more in the first year of a Labour government than under the first 10 years of their government, and we beat the forecasts on growth for 2025. We're turning this country around after the appalling mess that they left it in.
He says no one's going to listen to us. Who's going to listen to him? The winter fuel allowance, U-turn. Waspy women, U-turn. The 2-child benefit cap, U-turn. Grooming gangs inquiry, U-turn. The family farms tax, U-turn. Digital ID, U-turn. Jury trials? U-turn. We hope so. We hope so. U-turn. The family farms tax, U-turn. Digital ID, U-turn. Jury trials? U-turn. We hope so. We hope so. I think that's going to be the next one, Mr. Speaker. Week after week, these poor people sitting behind him have to defend the indefensible, only for him to U-turn a few days later. Mr. Speaker, one of his cabinet ministers told a journalist that what's happening at the moment is extraordinarily bad. Another said we've gone through a catastrophic series of missteps. Yet another minister said, we are so unpopular at the moment, I've come to the conclusion it's worth rolling the dice on a new leader. They're right, aren't they?
Mr. Speaker, here's the difference. I changed my party, and that's why we stand here with a majority Labour government. She sits there with her party that lost 2/3 of their MPs at the last election, and she's losing more every week. They're queuing up to join the member of Clacton's laundry service for disgraced Tory politicians. Meanwhile, inflation is down, wages are up, and waiting lists are down. Labour's turning the corner and changing this country for the better.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you will agree, and I hope others across the chamber will also, that we need to recognise and to celebrate achievements. And I say this because across the country, knife crime offences is going down. And of course, more needs to be done and more should be done. But this week's figures have shown that London has had its safest year ever under the London Mayor Sadiq Khan. And in fact, homicide rate in London is the lowest ever since records began. Now, Mr. Speaker, Reform and the Conservatives repeatedly talk down our capital city. So will the Prime Minister join me in saying they are wrong, and will he applaud these achievements?
Well, she draws attention to the important work of the Mayor of London, and nobody should be talking our country down or talking London down. And she's right to say that since we came into office, the number of knife crime offences is down, but, Mr. Speaker, there is more to do. We're introducing new powers to seize knives and increasing the penalty for selling knives to under-18s. And the party opposite, what did they do? They're chuntering. They voted against those provisions. And what's obvious about London and Reform is they've got a candidate for mayor who doesn't like London, a new ex-Tory recruit who struggled to pay his taxes in this country, and a leader who spends more time in France than in his constituency.